Hi there and welcome. Thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter. This video is for you. So I'll get into your questions again today. I hope that's okay for you. If you have any suggestions of anything else you'd like me to do for you on Patreon, just let me know. I am super grateful for your support here because without it, I wouldn't be able to continue in the work that I do. I offer less and less sessions nowadays, one-to-one sessions, so that I can provide content for the many, and I do work on that all day, every day, while the kids are at school and in the evenings too. I occasionally get offers from large companies that are within this movement to work with them or to even manage me, things like that. However, I always choose to stay independent because I don't want to be influenced by any big company's agenda or be told what to make or do, and just have it all come from the heart. So Patreon is very important in that way because it supports my work and my family as well. And I do believe that the videos I make are useful from the feedback that I get and helping people through their awakenings. I try to provide information that allows people to make their own minds up about things. If they're seeking for answers because they wonder about the nature of reality and the true nature of self, they can get ideas from my videos, and from feedback I find that they find that very useful indeed. So I believe that this is important work, and I thank you so much for helping me to carry it out. And I'll always do my best to serve my viewers and to serve you too in helping you along in your spiritual path. That is my mission, humbly, and I intend to continue working independently for that aim. Okay, so I hope you're all doing really well, and jumping into your questions now. This is from Sara. Hey Nikki, I was wondering if you could explain sudden death or accidental death. It's something that's always kind of confused me. Do we plan when we die before we're born, or can we die randomly? Also, say I get into a major accident of some kind and become disabled in some way. Is this accident something I would have had to have planned for myself before birth, or can this happen despite what I wanted for myself in this life? Is there some way our guardian angels protect us from having these unplanned experiences? Okay, that's a really good question. From the information I have gathered from much research, from speaking to mediums and through various channelings and so forth, significant experiences such as death will be planned before birth. It's worth remembering that other timelines do exist as well, so you may have planned for yourself to pass on earlier in one timeline than you would in another. You may be living out multiple timelines which your higher self will be experiencing through you and observing. So say if you had I don't know how many, but numerous timelines, you may pass away at various points across those different timelines. But significant events like that are usually planned, unless it's planned to leave them up to chance. So if you find yourself in circumstances where you could potentially pass away in an accident but you're not supposed to, then your guides or higher dimensional beings will make sure that you don't pass away in that accident. You often hear of people having miraculous escapes from accidents, and it just seems totally implausible or how they even survived, and that's often due to having a helping hand from the other side. So I'm often of the opinion that when it's your time in this current timeline that you're in. And that also helps to remove some fear, because, for example, if you have a fear of flying, you can get on the plane and think, well, if it's my time to go, then it's my time to go, and there's not much I can do about that. But if it's not my time to go, then I'm going to be fine. So your time to go is your time to go. So that helps remove fear of doing all sorts of things because you have no control as the human you are now as when it's your time to go. Your soul or higher self knows all about when that might be, but you don't. And that kind of information, when connecting with your guides and so forth, is not usually available to you, because that would infringe on your free will. So some people might have a premonition about it naturally, and then it turns out to be true, but that information is usually withheld from us so that we don't attempt to avoid it, the inevitable, and so that it doesn't infringe on our free will, knowing ahead of time. When it comes to general accidents that we have where we survive, those can be planned into our existence as well. Because think of the learning and experience you get from having an accident or an incident. I've had several incidents in my life and a couple of accidents where it was a narrow escape, and it affected me greatly, because once I was in a car crash when my car rolled over and I was hit by an articulated lorry. I was on my own in a little car when I was about 23, and in that moment when the large truck hit me, I thought I was going to die, and I watched the side of my car cave in and all the glass blow into my face, and then the car, never mind, I won't go into it too much, car rolling over. And in that moment I thought, that's it, my time's up, I'm going to snuff it right now. But then I survived. I managed to get out, but it really affected me for several weeks, because my sense of immortality was shot away. As a young person, you tend to feel quite immortal, don't you? And it really affected my confidence quite deeply for several weeks, and gave me a kick up the butt in many ways. And I believe that was meant to happen so I could have certain realizations. It had realizations that permeated all aspects of myself, really, in the way I view life and the preciousness of it, and what I should do in life, So that happened for a reason, because it changed me in certain beneficial ways. So an accident we may feel is terribly unfair, and why has this happened to me? But there can be many positives that can come from it. It can change our point of view on things. We learn lessons from it. It changes our perceptions about reality, about ourselves. So we move forward slightly different, and that may have been meant to be. So you said, Sara, say I get into a major accident of some kind and become disabled in some way. Is this accident something I would have had to have planned, or can this happen despite what I wanted for myself in life? If you become disabled, then that's likely something that would have been planned. I know it seems really unfair, but again, the soul is impartial and wants learning and experience. It doesn't mean we should, it doesn't mean to feel resentment towards our soul, because the soul is us. And we need to have unpleasant experiences in our lifetime so that we can learn to overcome them and learn lessons and see how we go. If we become disabled, that doesn't mean we can't have a happy and fulfilling life. It's just overcoming those obstacles to have a happy and fulfilling life. As we know, many people who are disabled, all people are disabled, are trying to be happy, and many do find happiness in spite of their injuries or disability, and that's the lesson that it brings. So if that is meant to be, and that's what your higher self wants for the particular you in this timeline, then in a way it's a gift of learning and experience. And can it happen even if it's not supposed to, and it spoil what you had planned in your life? If it's supposed to, it will. If it's not supposed to, it won't. And if it's supposed to and spoils what you had planned, then it's supposed to have happened. Yes, it could still happen. So if it's supposed to happen and spoils what you have planned, then it was still supposed to happen. And perhaps the challenge is still doing what you had planned in spite of having a disability. So if it's not your time to go, or not your time to have a disabling, a debilitating accident, then yes, you will be protected. So I go around with the attitude that I am protected no matter what, which I am. But if it's time for me to get into some situation that I must learn from and have experience from, or for me to pass away, then that is what is on the cards. So I hope this has been helpful to you, Sara. Thank you very much for your question. I hope that's made you feel better in some way, although it might not have done, but you can continue to feel protected, and whatever is on your path, a significant event like that being unavoidable, it's not worth worrying about. Eventually passing over happens to us all, and as mediums say, as they receive from spirit, that it's not painful, and the act of actually passing away is not painful, and that we perceive death as this terrible ending of our consciousness, but it's not. It's just another transition. So I might recommend working on any fear of death that you have by looking into the fact and trying to contemplate and mull over the fact that it's a transition and not an ending, and not to worry about pain. I remember once when I was younger, I was knocked out. And I don't know if I actually died or not, because I was with a bunch of other young people who didn't bother to take me to the emergency room. But when I was knocked out, I didn't feel any pain. I had a blow to the head, to the front of the head. And I remember when the blow happened, I remember feeling a tiny touch of the beginning of pain, but then it went away and it fizzled out like white noise. So I felt the touch of the impact, but then I was knocked out and there was no pain. So if you were to pass away from by having some sort of impact or something, from my experience, there's no pain because you get knocked out and then you don't feel anything. And then I sort of entered this funny dream, which I can't remember, but I know I was aware of something, and I wonder if it was a near-death experience. And I'm trying to access that memory. So that's a story for you there. So thank you so much, Sara, for your question. And Sara, you'd asked another question about the Stan Romanek story, and you said it's on Netflix. But I haven't actually seen that or looked into that, and he was abducted by aliens. I'll look into that and get back to you about his alien abduction story then. As soon as I have time, I'll try and watch that documentary. Thank you, Sara. Okay, so this question is from Michele. Thank you very much, Michele. I just recently realised I've been a victim of spiritual warfare. I met a psychic when I was 16. She was in my life for 13 years. It took me 5 years to remember what really happened. I believe she not only did voodoo on me, but had mind control over me, causing me to not remember a lot. I'm psychic, medium and healer, and I know this all happened to me because it's part of my path. My question is, how could I be a victim of voodoo if at the time I didn't even know it existed? I thought we could only be victims of something we believed was real. Thank you for listening. Okay, thanks again, Michele. So, if you're sure you were a victim of voodoo spells and such forth, and you believe that now, so there's a couple of points on this. Reality does work retroactively, so from future to past. So if you're believing that now, it's like you're giving your past self permission to be affected by it. So if you believe now that you have been subject to voodoo spells or rituals, then that is creating that for yourself, not only now, but in the past as well. So it works into the past. So having the attitude, that has no effect on me. I am safe, I am protected, nothing to do with me. That gets rid of it. If you have the tiniest inkling that you are affected, impacted by such things, because your mind and the reality you create, you are every bit as powerful as anything that anyone else can think at you. You are able to counteract anything. Do not underestimate your own power in any tiny way. Take my words, if you can, and just say, okay, Nikki, nothing to do with me. That is not part of my reality. I'm not affected by such things. Okay? And that should work retroactively to undo that. So you in the future are in a way giving permission for that to affect you in the past. Secondly, if, as you say, because you didn't know voodoo existed, how could it be something that has affected you because you thought we could only be victims of something we believed was real, but you didn't believe it was real and you didn't believe it was not real. You didn't know about it. So it would be a vibratory thing. You know, there could be something happening to me. I don't know, someone committing fraud against me of a way that I would never have conceived of. Some kind of, I don't know, internet fraud or some method that someone was doing something negative towards me for their own benefit that I had never thought of or conceived of before, or something, because I can't think of it because I don't know about it. So something I don't know about, someone doing something negative to me that I don't know about. And then when I find out about it, I'm astonished because I never knew that such a thing could occur. So you don't have to know about something for it to affect you. It could be more of a vibrational thing, a subconscious belief that people are a bit untrustworthy, or a subconscious belief that people are out to get me. You may not have it consciously, or you may be overly trusting in people because there's a subconscious belief that my own thoughts and opinions don't carry as much weight as theirs, so you're giving your power away to them, and in giving that power away you end up them being of a negative leaning, having a negative influence over you. So it doesn't so not knowing about something doesn't mean it can't occur in your reality, because lots of people don't know about many things, but they still occur in their reality. And never think that anything like this is your fault. It may have been a pre-incarnative decision to have come into contact with this person for your own learning and experience. So we attract things to ourselves vibrationally through the law of attraction, but also many things are pre-incarnative decisions that our higher self decides, oh, that'll be pretty good to experience, whether it seems fair or not. So I hope that's been helpful for you today, Michele. Thank you. Okay, this is from Rezin. Thank you, Rezin. I've been opening my mind to the idea of reincarnation, and it's starting to kind of make sense to me. My question is about heaven. Do you believe people can manifest heaven by believing so much in a specific message of heaven, let's say Christianity, and we have a chance of losing heaven because we're in the karmic cycle? Is the fifth dimension a form of heaven? I would rather try to manifest heaven after Earth than reincarnation. My idea of the fifth dimension is that I will finally break free from the fourth dimension where duality exists. Would love your thoughts. Thank you very much. Okay, Rezin, let's take this bit by bit. Do you believe people can manifest heaven by believing so much in a specific message of heaven, let's say Christianity? Yes. And this is even spoken about in the law of one, that people, when they passed over, they have a preconceived idea of what will meet them on the other side, and that is what they create, because on the other side reality is manifested via thought. So they believe that they realize that they have died, and then they believe they'll see heaven, and that is what they will get. And then other beings need to sort of talk them down out of this reality, this illusion that they're creating, and bring them into the collective reality there that all the other spirits are experiencing. And we have a chance of losing heaven because we are in the karmic cycle. You see, the Christian idea of heaven is that that's somewhere you go and you rest there for eternity. But consciousness needs to learn and grow and progress, so we wouldn't want to just go and rest somewhere beautiful for eternity, because we would lose the concept of happiness and beauty anyway, because we would never experience the opposite. The way that we appreciate beauty, love, happiness, joy and good things is that we've experienced the opposite, which is pretty dire. And without that opposite, we don't appreciate what's good and wonderful. So we wouldn't want to go and rest in heaven for eternity, but you time isn't relative on the other side, and that's hard to conceptualize. So we go over to our natural state, which is lovely and wonderful and full of love and with our loved ones, and we can remain there for as long as we want. But time isn't relative to this reality. So we could go over for 10,000 years, but then come and incarnate back on Earth 20 years later from when we left. So you won't lose heaven or the nice stuff on the other side, the nice beingness on the other side, because of a karmic cycle. You'll just come back and play out more learning and experience, which is karma basically anyway, in your next incarnation when you're ready. Is the fifth dimension a form of heaven? Well, the fifth density, I talk in terms of density of frequencies of matter rather than the dimensions which are part of them. So currently in the third density, or which has 4 dimensions that we're in now, we're moving into the fourth density, which has 5 dimensions, space and time going in 2 directions. So the fourth density, the fifth dimension, is it a form of heaven? 5D, let's call it 5D so I'm not getting mixed up with my words. 5D refers to the physical conditions on this planet or other planets that have reached this level of progression. So when we go over, that's a separate plane of existence. That's a default energetic body and the plane of existence where spirit goes after this lifetime. And then when we incarnate back onto Earth, it would be into 5D if that's where we're going, or back into 4D, the third density here, if that's where we're going. So the other side is not 5D, it's not part of that, according to the law of one. I would rather try to manifest heaven after Earth than reincarnation. If that's your choice, then that's fine. My idea of the fifth dimension is that I will finally break free from the fourth dimension where duality exists. If that is your will, then that is what you can create. And I agree with you, I'd quite like to do that as well. Break free of this third density and move into the fourth density. That would be lovely. And you know, that if that is your will and you feel like that's something which is in your destiny, on your path, and that is, you know, possibly so. Okay, Rezin, I hope that's been helpful for you today. Okay, so that's plenty for today. Thank you so much for your questions, and I hope that even if you haven't asked any questions of me, then you still get enjoyment out of these videos. And I wish you so much love and prosperity and peace, and I'm sending you lots of love and all the best.